Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Carolyn Jones, and I am now the CPACE Program Manager over at Montana Facility Finance Authority. So we're going to talk a little bit about that program today and how you guys can help us identify projects with the businesses, as well as help us get some districts adopted throughout the state, which is kind of the first step in that part, with working primarily with counties to have them do a district countywide. So got a little bit of a presentation today, and then Seth is on the call. I'll have him introduce himself, and then maybe we can go around and introduce everybody quickly that's on the call, and maybe just briefly, maybe about kind of the regions that you guys cover.
That sounds good. Hi, everybody. I'm Seth Lutter. I'm the Associate Director of the Montana Facility Finance Authority. I think I probably know most of you from different work with MEDA and other organizations. I'll probably do the MFFA type part of the presentation, and then Carolyn will do the CPACE portion. So we're going to tag team it today.
Sarah, you want to jump in there and introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Sarah. I'm the Executive Director of Snowy Mountain Development Corporation and Snowy Mountain Development Authority. And we have the 6 counties right in the center of the state: Fergus, Petroleum, Musselshell, Golden Valley, Wheatland, Judith Basin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Atchison with Southeastern Montana Development over in Colstrip. We're the CRDC that covers the 4 counties of Custer, Rosebud, Powder River, and Treasure.
And I can go next. I'm JC Head, and I'm the Economic Development Director for Beartooth RC&D, and we are the EDO and the CRDC for 5 counties: Bighorn, Carbon, Sweetgrass, Stillwater, and Yellowstone.
And I'm Kelsey Bates. I am the Director of Lending for Great Northern Development Corporation, and we cover 6 counties in Northeast Montana: Daniels, Sheridan, Macomb, Valley, Roosevelt, and Garfield.
Kelly Sullivan. I'm with Headwaters RC&D. We're based in Butte, and we cover Jefferson, Madison, Beaverhead, Butte, Silverbow, Anaconda, Deer Lodge, Powell, and Granite counties.
Hi, I'm Heather Knutson with Mission West, and Mission West includes Lake County, Sanders County, and Mineral County.
I'm also from.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Beth. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I was going to tag off with Heather, but yeah, I'm also from Mission West, and yeah, same.
Great. I'm Beth Epley. I'm with Eastern Plains Economic Development Corporation, and we have the 5 counties down in the southeastern corner of the state: Prairie, Carter, Dawson, Fallon, Webo. So, yep. Thank you, guys.
My name is Julia Robbins, and I also trustee host here. We are with Bear Paw Development Corporation. We serve Liberty, Blaine, Choteau, Hill, Phillips County, and Rocky Boy Reservation.
Hi, I'm Tina Toyne. I was invited today by JC Head. I am the Economic Development Director from Bighorn County in the city of Hardin, and am just getting started and learning all you have to share. So thank you.
Great. Is that everybody?
Seems like it.
Okay, guess so. Well, we'll get started. So Seth, you want to jump in here to start with, and then we'll transition?
Sounds good. So just kind of real quick, high level stuff. So the Montana Facility Finance Authority, we basically, our bread and butter of what we do is we finance, we're a conduit issuer of tax exempt and taxable bonds for healthcare facilities throughout the state of Montana. We've been around for about 40 years. In that time, we financed $4 billion in healthcare finance, and that's us being a conduit issuer of bonds anywhere from $1 million up to $250 million. There's really no ceiling on the amount of bonds that we can do. But we also have internal loan programs for up to $2 million for smaller healthcare facilities. So we kind of manage a revolving loan fund. I can go to the next slide real quick for me, Carolyn. So just basically state of Montana, we cover most everybody. There's some states that or some healthcare facilities that we might not serve, but for the most part, we serve the big ones in the big cities and the small ones in the small cities. And we've been doing this kind of work, as I mentioned, for about 40 years. And just a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, we were able to get into the CPACE program because of we assisted with some healthcare facilities with some energy efficiency grants, so they could get an energy audit of their building to determine if there was any sort of upgrade or improvement that they needed to their facility. Because we provided grants for them, when the CPACE program came around to the state of Montana, we were eyed for being the statewide administrators of it. So that's what we're doing now. And Carolyn, I'll let you take over and discuss the CPACE program.
Perfect. So, and I know some of you guys have kind of heard this a little bit before, because I think Adam and Seth did a call on the CRDC with the CRDC group a while back too, but we've kind of been building it up a little bit more, getting more and more counties and communities and projects going. So just kind of wanted to touch base and see if we can kind of refresh everybody's memory. So CPACE stands for Commercial Property Assessed Capital Enhancements. Basically, the reason behind it is to help enforce business savings for wasted energy. As you can see from the slide, basically Montana's businesses spend 1.2 billion every year, and they estimate is about 30% of the energy in commercial and industry buildings is wasted. So that comes to about $353 million. So I'm sure you guys, of all people, can imagine how much that money can help businesses in many, many other ways, other than to just basically send that extra heat out into the air and so forth. So basically, CPACE financing works kind of at a high level. It's going to finance direct and indirect costs related to energy and water consumption. So it's basically to help with energy savings, water savings, and then renewable energy systems. So direct is the equipment purchases, the indirect, the installations, some of the soft costs involved in that. The terms are negotiated between the property owner and the private capital provider. So the funding is not coming through any sort of federal funding source or state funding source. It truly is a match. So the program's role as the state administrator is to basically make sure that the projects meet the eligibility requirements according to the state statute. And then we partner those providers with the property owners to get the work done. There is an independent, an energy assessment that's required that basically is going to identify the cost savings and there's project savings as well as the project costs. And then we do have an independent energy analysis of that, just to make sure with a non-affiliated party that makes sense. And that helps determine the cost effectiveness of the project, which is a requirement in the statute that the savings must cover the cost of the project, and that can include the cost of the financing in there. It's typically a fixed rate financing for long term because it's tied to the useful life of the improvements. If you're doing multiple improvements in a project, it's tied to the average useful life of that project. So typically some of these projects, like if you've got solar involved, that could be a 25 to 30 year useful life on that. So this financing is done for very long term. It's the fixed rate for the long term as well too. So it's not a situation where you've got a bank coming in and repricing those loans every 3 to 5 to 7 years. That fixed rate is going for the long term. The payments then are the little bit different on this, even though it's a typical commercial loan, so to speak, between a capital provider and a property owner, is the payments are coming back through the property taxes. So through a special tax assessment. on that part too. It helps the project substitute for that higher cost mezzanine debt or any sort of equity involved on that. And then basically the projects as a whole, because they're helping those businesses help promote economic development, the investment and the job creation and job retention. Again, with those savings that you saw and those potential dollar amounts of wasted energy alone. So eligible properties, basically the program can work with commercial properties, industrial properties, mixed use, agriculture and multifamily. And for the purposes of multifamily, it's a parcel with 4 or more dwelling units on that. So single family or anything up to 3 would not be eligible. And then the types of projects that we can do basically are the new construction, where CPACE can come in for potentially as much as 25% of the capital cost of the new construction project. And then we can also do retrofit of existing buildings. And the statute also allows retroactive financing. So if businesses have done some of this up to 36 months in the past, we can look at and coming in and retroactively doing some CPACE financing with that, which might help them get some capital back in, especially if they kind of maybe did some upfront cash provisions for those financings previously. Typical measures that can be funded by the CPACE, again, energy savings, water savings, so HVAC, solar, water fixtures, things like that. But also we can finance the envelope space elevators with the agriculture in there. We can look at irrigation on those pieces as well too. So those are kind of some of the types of pieces that we can finance. Because it's not funded from the state funds or federal funds, it does have a really unique opportunity in being able to be partnered or paired with some of the other economic development tools. So new market tax credits, low income housing tax credits, tax abatements, opportunity zones, so on and so forth. We've been doing a lot of recommendation right now with some REAP grant funds that they've got available with an increase in the percentage of a project that they can involve with, as well as the dollar amount due to the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. So, so again, it doesn't necessarily limit any sort of opportunity to bring in some outside economic development funding. So the process, basically just high level process, basically the local government, because it is paid back in a special tax assessment. We do need the local governments to establish a CPACE district that allows that assessment to be put on their books. Typically, this is done countywide. However, there are some counties that Flathead County is for example, one of them currently. However, the city of Kalispell saw the benefit of this, so they have passed a district, and we're currently in talks with the city of Whitefish. But so this is where my background of the partnership with you guys as the economic development organizations, typically that serve multiple regions, multiple county regions, can benefit in trying to come out and rather than doing a patchwork of a county here and a county there, maybe try to work through you guys and try to get all of the counties in your region to adopt this district. There's no cost for them to get this done. It just goes through the typical public process of being an initial resolution at a county meeting. Then if they move forward with that, they have a public hearing, and then it can institute a final resolution on that part too. So, but that is required in order to be able to book those payments back on the assessments. The building owner then completes the energy audit or energy assessment, basically to identify what their project involves, what kind of equipment they're going to be installing or replacing, and what those savings opportunities are around that. The owner then completes the CPACE application, which is on the program's website, lastbestpace.com, and gets that submitted into us, and then we work with them on the next steps. Again, once we've got that energy assessment, we have to go out to that independent third-party reviewer to have that looked at to make sure that those costs and those savings are making sense, and there's not somebody just coming out trying to promote some sort of quick contractor deal to get some money in their pocket. Once we've looked at that, then basically we approve the project to make sure, again, that statutory requirements of that cost effectiveness is being met. And then basically the owner works with, again, a private lender. They can completely select that lender. We can provide them with referrals. We're trying to work and build onto a Montana banker network. Right now, I believe we have 4 Montana institutions that we're primarily working with, but every day we work to increase that, as well as we have some larger national PACE lenders that work with very large projects, especially if you're going to be involved with a lot of those types of credits, tax credits and rebates and things like that too. So we are happy to make referrals, but again, by no means do we want to insert ourselves in that decision making process. And again, the terms of the loans, all that is negotiated between the business owner and the lender. Then basically they work through the loan documentation process. We get the assessment recorded on the books. The owner then goes ahead and completes the project, gets the payment, moving forward on that part. And then basically those energy savings can help repay that assessment. These projects typically are cash flow neutral, if not cash flow positive from the very get-go, because again, the savings are offsetting those costs involved. So the role of the local government basically is that they're going to establish that district. They're going to typically, again, involving the county commissioners at this level, and then the bills and the receipt of the property taxes. So this is where the county treasurers or county clerk and recorder or recorder treasurer, the various counties have various combinations of those, of that work being done. So they're going to record it in their software. We're currently having discussions with revenue and some of the counties and the 2 software providers to get some pretty similar or pretty simple steps in place to get that done. Basically, they are going to record it very similar to an RSID on their books in order to have that billing done. The local government does not have to serve as a collection agency for the lender, and they're not working on behalf of the lender. They can be as involved or uninvolved as they like. So that again is totally voluntary once we've got that district in place. Then MFFA, as the statewide CPACE administrator, basically serves as the agent of that government. So basically we work with the borrowers and the lenders. And when the county receives payment on those assessments, they send that to MFFA, and then we disperse that out to the lenders to get that paid. Benefits that at the local government level and getting this district set up, it basically assists the local businesses in saving money when they find these energy savings projects. It helps when they're not paying those extra money on wasted energy. That helps with them creating maybe some new jobs or just maybe solidifying the retention of existing jobs, and helps them provide obviously some economic growth, increases property values, and then increases revenues at the county level as well too. So I'm going to go to this next slide here. This is just an example for Roosevelt County that we used it in presentation to GNDC last week, and Seth can explain this a little better still. So I'm going to transition over to Seth.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Carolyn. So this is just a quick breakdown of what it looks like if we're able to do a CPACE financing in Roosevelt County. And basically, depending on the taxable value of the project, so that's the left-hand side, the 100,000 down to 5 million. And then what it looks like on the county mill side, basically how much the county would get in taxable revenue, how much the county schools, your local schools or city mills would get as well. So this is just a breakdown to basically show if we did a $1 million CPACE financing, and you look across the first year, county would get about $3,800, almost $3,900 in additional revenue because of it. And then you can look at the county schools at about $1,000, local schools at $2,400, and then the city mills at $4,200. And that's in the first year of being able to do a CPACE project. And then there's a 20-year projection as well. This is basically just to show, the difference in value of the property and then what the county would be able to receive from these changes. So we have it go up to 5 million because we did the CPACE financing in Broadwater County, and that financing was $5.5 million. So just because we did this one financing in Broadwater County, the county mills, they're going to be getting quite a few $1,000 worth of increased tax revenue because of the CPACE project that we're doing. So it's not just obviously good for the business, because again, as Carolyn said, we have to show positive savings over expenses from the very beginning. But it's also good for the county, and it's good for just the economic development of the region. Back to you, Carolyn.
Awesome, thanks, Seth. So just a couple of, we'll just finish up with a couple of examples basically here, and then open it up if you guys have questions. But basically, this is the project that Seth was just referring to, down in Broadwater County at the intersection of I-80 and 287. Basically, there was a hindrance due to the lack of being able to get some good water and sewage lines in there, with just having any sort of development done down at that intersection. So Headwaters Utility District was created. It's a private water sewer district that allowed them to what was called a membrane bioreactor system to help clean the sewage. It cleans it up, and then they sell it back to themselves as the business is Pridger Brewing down there. So a big brewing facility as well as restaurant. And they're able to sell that clean sewage water back to themselves, and the industrial park is gray water on that part too. So that big solution there helped open up that whole development down there. Again, estimated county tax revenue on that was just over $75,000 just in the first year alone. And that was $5.5 million in CPACE financing in 2 tranches. Estimated project savings on that project is going to be over $10 million. And I believe they saved like 300 million gallons of water.
And you're correct. Yeah, the big benefit of this, it wasn't the electricity savings, it was the water savings. Over its useful life, this membrane reactor system is looking at saving 300 million gallons of water. And especially in today's day and age of water conservation, it's massive for that area and for them.
Okay, another project, that's the only project that's actually gone all the way through the process in Montana, still to date. Again, we've got quite a few projects in the hopper right now that we're working through, but a similar type of project that you guys all deal with, especially in the rural Montana areas, is this building is down in Florence, Colorado. Basically, if you look at the picture, I'm sure you guys recognize that from a lot of main streets in your towns, something very similar looking. They basically needed to come in and do some improvements to the building. So they did some insulation, some lighting, rooftop solar, updated some heating and cooling systems. So they financed $616,000 worth of improvements in that building. The savings, again, when they did their energy analysis, savings were over almost $780,000. In addition to that, though, the building value actually itself improved over $600,000 too. So you can see kind of that's where you've got the direct savings, and then you've kind of got that indirect impact as well too. So, and then obviously the quote from the real estate broker there is that they can help replace the equity or cash needed from the borrower. So if you don't investigate this as a possible financing tool, you're leaving money on the table. So, and then another one is a case study out of Texas with the Texas PACE Authority. Again, pretty small rural area, rural building, something that you guys might typically see in some of our areas in Montana. Just a 15,000 square foot building built, in the last couple of decades with some additions, needed to do some improvements. They wanted to do some solar, so they financed $120,000. And in addition to that, they were also able to partner it with some other grants and rebates. So kind of just wanted to illustrate the idea behind that as well too. So they got a USDA Rural Development REAP grant, and then they were able to work with their local electric provider to get some rebates in there as well too. And because of this, it reduced their electricity use by 26%. So you can understand the benefits of that from the business side purposes on that part too. So kind of a really brief recap of where we're at now. The program launched January 1st, 2022 with Seth and Adam. And to date, I've got 10 counties. I'm still waiting to hear absolutely positive from Ponderay, but they were meeting to do their final resolution on Wednesday. But Sarah's on vacation, so I haven't checked back with her. But right now with Pondere, we've got 10 counties and 1 city that have approved the CPACE district. And you can see they run the gamut. You know, we've got the big larger counties, Missoula, Yellowstone, Gallatin, but we've also got some of the very small rural counties, Mineral, Pondere, Broadwater, and so on and so forth. So we're working on outreach right now to 4 other local governments. Right now, where we're at with those current districts, we've got about 53% of the commercial buildings across the state covered. And once we get these other 4 governments that we're working on, we'll have about 73% of the commercial buildings that will be in established districts, which can just basically come in and identify projects. And again, as long as they meet the requirements of the program, we can get them some PACE financing and hopefully get some energy savings going. And some improvements to the building and improvements to tax values and potentially improvements to just the look of the downtowns. So we've got current discussions again going with about 30 different projects ranging across 12 different counties. So again, that's why we're working to try to identify these counties and get these county districts approved up front, so that as businesses come in and are aware of the program, start to work with their lenders, we can get that done without having that additional administrative headache of having to do that parallel. Although that can be done in a parallel time frame while we're working through a project and getting them financing, and at the same time as we're getting the district put in place. And then we're obviously always ready to assist with additional CPACE projects as you guys can help identify them and refer them our way. And we're happy to visit with them and see if we can help them find some financing for their improvements. And with that, again, we've got the program website of thelastbestpace.com, and we've got our contact information out there too. So we're happy to take any and all questions that you guys have.
And real quick, also, I'm just going to put in there is Carolyn, out of everybody that's on the call right now, I mean, we heard a plethora of different counties that they serve. Can you say what projects we have in which counties that they might be serving right now that we're hoping to get districts established in?
Yeah, so we've got one owner of a business right now that is looking at multiple properties that he owns across multiple counties. The one county right now that we don't have currently a district in is Bighorn. So we're reaching out to Bighorn to try to get in front of their commission and present the program. And another business that we've been talking to is up in Hill County. So I've been working with Julia to try to reach out to the commissioners there, get some information to them. I know also Julia had mentioned some possible project in Liberty County, same thing there. And those are the ones that are easily coming to my mind right now, Seth, if you can think of anything else right off the top of your head.
No, I appreciate that. And I think just a big part of us having this conversation with all of you, because of, you know, just the massive amount of land that you manage with the economic development, is that we will have projects coming. We're working on multiple projects right now in your area. And we're hoping to kind of give you all a little bit of intrigue to start reaching out to your county commissioners to get these districts in place, so that when the project in Hill County comes up, we go, oh yeah, we already have a district in place, let's start doing the financing. And especially when we get one in Rosebud County or we get an interest in Carter, is really just making sure that we have good support on your side, which I know that we always do, but trying to get some cheap financing for your local businesses. I know that's what our goal is.
Yeah, and I put up the program map. Hopefully you guys are seeing that if I did my share screen correctly.
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah, those are the counties right now that we've got finalized in blue and then in process. Once I verify the Pondere, we'll get that color changed.
So this doesn't work with housing, correct?
It can with multi-family housing if it's one parcel. And because it's coming through the assessment, it has to be the one parcel. So if you've got condos that are owned, you know, each one is owned by a different person and is taxed at a different level, that's not going to work.
But a multifamily apartment complex or a fourplex, anything above that can receive financing through CPACE.
So I have a whole bunch of square footage on my second, third, and fourth floors of my businesses. Will that work?
Yes, so that would basically be like a multi-use. So if we're looking at commercial property like on the ground floor and then apartment complexes on the second and third floors, that would qualify.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
You guys are a quiet group today.
Right? So just so you know, as well, as our goal is to reach out to each one of you individually as well to go over any sort of question you might have, at the same time, let you know projects that we have in your area, to hopefully get these districts in place and to start that process. So definitely don't feel surprised when you get an email from Carolyn or myself. We're going to try to get as many districts in place as possible. We know that it's a lot easier when we have a potential project in the area, but we also know that someone needs to learn about something. What is it? Eight different times. Something has to kind of approach them 8 times before they recognize. So we know that the county commissioners, with a lot of different things on their plate, a lot of different pieces of paper on their desk, that CPACE, if they hear about it once, that's fine, but we want them to hear about it as many times as possible. We reach out to the local businesses and have the owners reach out to the county commissioners. We'd love economic developers like yourselves to reach out to the county commissioners. We also have a lot of other groups in different areas, like the Northern Plains groups and others that will also reach out to their county commissioners. So, our goal is to provide this tool and this economic opportunity to as many businesses as possible. And that means getting it in each one of the counties. So do not be surprised when you receive an email from Carolyn or myself, and we hope that you will assist us in this journey going forward.
Well, Seth, what were some of the challenges that these county commissions who ultimately implemented a CPACE district, what were some of the challenges that they brought forward against doing a countywide district?
Yeah, that's great. So we have countywide districts in every single one except Flathead. Flathead's the only one that the county was like, no, this isn't really interesting to us. But even others were a bit of a struggle. Yellowstone County was a bit of a struggle trying to get it passed. And really the main issues that came up to us were they didn't know what the administrative burden was going to be on their county treasurer. So we have amazing partners across the state. The county treasurer in Missoula County, he's talked to different counties before about CPACE as a proponent. He basically has talked to numerous ones saying, this is just like an RID or an SID. It acts in the same kind of way. You guys do 20 or 30 of these already. This isn't an administrative burden. Plus, with CPACE, a county can also take a fee. So if they are processing 1, 2, 10 different CPACE assessments, they can charge an annual fee on those as well. So, and then much like that tax slide that I presented on earlier, the county will also see economic benefit to themselves because of the increased property values. So the main question I received was, what kind of administrative burden is this? And then the other one was, well, this just seems kind of new. And we're just kind of, like this isn't how it's always been. This seems a little different. With that, I always say, well, it is new, right? CPACE is new, not just in Montana, but nationally. Nationally, it's been around since about 2009. It's in 38 different states, but commercial property assessed capital enhancements has done about $7 billion worth of financing nationally. And why can't we in Montana take advantage of it? So
Okay.
it is new, and really, even though it's been around since '09, in the past 5 years is really when it's really taken off. And so I think Montana is at a great place where we adopted it 2 years ago. It just launched January 1st of 2022. We're kind of at the cusp of this new financing structure that it is not going away. It is just going to become bigger. So if a county commissioner doesn't like it for one reason or another, they're going to see other counties adopt it, and they're going to see other businesses in those other counties take advantage. And it's not just obviously we want the Main Street businesses to take advantage of it, definitely, but we've gotten a lot of interest from businesses out of state that are coming to Montana. We're building 150,000 square foot manufacturing facility, and we want it to be energy efficient. Well, if they can get cheap financing in one county compared to the next, that is just additional revenue for that county. So the county's goal should be, how can we save our businesses money? And this is just another tool to help them save money.
Okay. Do you have like a draft deal structure or pro forma or something where I can look at how this looks on paper, the deal?
Yep, we do. We have kind of a capital stack, how it looks in the capital stack of different projects. So
Yes.
we can send that over. We also have a one pager that's just kind of brief description. Okay, what is CPACE? On our website, we have a ton of good information as well. We're also building a checklist to give to potential clients that says, okay, these are the steps to get CPACE. Go down the line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
So we're trying to make it as easy for people as possible.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Julia from Bear Paw. I do have a quick question because I'm sure it'll come up from our counties. So on the note of the administration on this, I've read through the Last Best Pace website, and I understand, there's a lien on the property, and that it shouldn't, cost the county any money, even if they're delinquent. But how much effort, how much work is it going to be on the county's side if a loan does go delinquent?
Yep, that's a great question. So on delinquency, it follows the same pattern as any commercial building going delinquent, because being that it's on the property taxes, someone obviously cannot, in Montana, you cannot pay just a portion of your taxes. So it's much like if they decide, to not pay their sidewalk districts or other RIDs, if they only pay a portion of their taxes without 100%, then their taxes are still considered delinquent. The nice thing about CPACE, though, is that it is a private lender that provides the financing. So, most private lenders, let's say they put money into a project and the business owner decides not to pay their taxes, the business owner most likely will be covering any sort of delinquency so that they know they're not going to lose out on the full project. So that is something that most likely will happen anyway in the loan documents of the commercial lender. We're obviously not the lender, so we can't speak for them, but it would follow the same pattern as any sort of tax delinquency. And the lender that put money into it would follow the same pattern that they usually would for any sort of financing.
Thank you for answering that question. Yeah, I think that's going to be one of our biggest questions, trying to get our counties on board, to make sure that it's not going to burden them if/when that happens.
Yep, exactly. No, I think that's great. And one of the questions that we received as well, and we started learning about what the county's process is for delinquencies when we jumped on to CPACE. I mean, it wasn't really something that we had to learn before. But we're learning about the process of the county, and something that I learned as well that just kind of I didn't know is one of the counties that asked, well, what if this goes to auction and gets sold for pennies on the dollar? Where one thing is, in Montana, commercial properties don't go to auction, just residential properties do. So what would happen is an investor would buy the lien, and it would basically be paid every single year And then whoever takes over the property, let's say the current business owner defaults on it completely, the investor would pay off any sort of delinquent taxes. So everybody becomes solvent. And then the property, the assessment, the CPACE assessment just follows on the property. So the lender that puts money into it, worst case scenario for them is if the business that they lend to doesn't pay for 2 years, they might not get payment for 2 years. But whoever buys the property will be paying off the taxes. So they will become whole again. And much like any taxes, it is non-accelerated debt. So like if you get a regular traditional financing and you miss a payment or 2 or 3 or a year's worth, you're going to have the full amount that is due. And there's a lot of other complications that come along with it. Tax assessments are non-accelerated debt. So the only payment that is due is the payment that you missed. So if a business owner has CPACE, they miss 2 years, it gets summed up by an investor or the lender that has the note on it. They are no longer delinquent. And it follows the property. It doesn't necessarily follow the business. So whoever owns the property next, they get their tax bill, their CPACE assessment on there, and then they pay on that. So it's non-accelerating, which makes it easier on the borrower, definitely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Doesn't seem like it. That's good. Hopefully we explained everything perfectly and no one has any other questions. Great. But again, do not be surprised when you get an email from Carolyn or myself, just trying to get some districts in place in the areas that you serve. We do appreciate everybody being on this call and hearing the presentation. Like I said, it is new for Montana, but it is not new for a lot of banks that are interested in financing these. So we have, Carolyn said we have about 4 local Montana banks that are interested, but there's also a dozen national lenders that all they do is CPACE financing. So if we have potential projects in your area, reach out to us and say, hey, we have this. Does this fit what CPACE wants? Because we're looking at trying to get some inexpensive financing for them. And our job is to go through the eligibility and make sure that it fits. So we really appreciate all the work that you do, not just, assisting with CPACE, but everything else that you do in your communities. Carolyn, is there anything else that you want to add?
Not at this time. I don't think so.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carolyn and Seth. Have a good weekend.
Guys.
Thanks, you too.